So today is the last Sunday in Lent, before Palm Sunday, Holy Week, and our garden has come to fruition, literally. Nice, luscious grapes on the vines, encouraging us to bear fruit with our lives. But as you know, it's often not easy to bear fruit. Not easy being a grape. Sometimes you get squished, criticized. You may ruffle a few feathers bearing fruit. In John's Gospel, we're told that Jesus was on his way to Jerusalem, but stopped off in the suburb of Bethany to see three friends, Lazarus and his two sisters, Mary and Martha. While Jesus is there, Mary does something that she knew could bring criticism and blame. She comes to Jesus holding a container of expensive oil or perfume. My wife Sherry is out of town today in Minnesota at a Young Living oil conference. Like Mary's oils, the oils Sherry uses come from plants. And depending on how effective the oils are and how accessible they are, determines the value of the oil. Some are very, very expensive. Mary had some of this Young Living oil before Young Living got hold of it. She took a pint of this pure oil and poured it on Jesus' feet and begins to wipe his feet with her hair. The aroma and the sensation must have been incredible. "What are you doing?" asked Judas. "What are you doing? You've wasted the perfume. We could have sold it and used the money to help the poor who really need it." "Leave her alone," Jesus says. "She's done a good thing. You will always have the poor with you, but you will not always have me. You will not always have me." In the mythical town of Lake Wobegon, Minnesota, we hear about Pastor Inkvist, who is the minister at Lake Wobegon Lutheran Church. Pastor Inkvist and his wife Judy are about to embark on a long-anticipated trip. They will be leaving the frozen tundra of Minnesota to go to sunny Orlando to attend a 5-day continuing education conference. Now, even though the trip is work-related, it's a trip of a lifetime for them. Pastor Inkvist has worked hard for many years for the people of Lake Wobegon Lutheran Church, and he's never had a trip like this with his wife, who also worked hard as a pastor's wife and raising children. The night before they were to leave, the church had their monthly church council meeting. One of the deacons, a long-time council member, spoke up and noted that it was really a shame. A shame, the pictures they have been seeing of all the poor children suffering in the drought in Africa. It makes it so hard to sleep at night, he said. I just wish we could do more for world relief. I think we should go back through the budget and see if we can trim some non-essentials from it. Travel and that kind of thing. There was silence. An awkward silence. And then, after a long pause, Pastor Inkvis said, Well, I suppose my wife and I could cancel our trip to Florida for the Lutheran conference for 5 days, starting tomorrow. He was hoping someone would speak up and say, No, you can't do that. You need to go. You deserve it. You've worked so hard for all these years. You've been there for us when we needed you. You and the missus must go. But nobody said anything. After a long pause, the deacon said, Okay, Pastor, well, if that's how you feel about it, that's what we'll do. Well, it wasn't how he felt about it. It's what he said, but it wasn't how he felt. He felt miserable. So did his wife Judy when Pastor Inkvis explained it to her that night. And not so subtly, she encouraged him to no longer speak for her in such situations. And then Pastor Inkvis got sick. You see, not only did Pastor Inkvis and his wife deserve the trip, they needed it. It's great, of course, that the council members were concerned for those in need in Africa, but they were blind to the one sitting in the room with them who was in need. Blind to the needs of the ones who had been doing so much for them. Jesus was constantly helping people in need, and he, of course, encouraged his followers to help those in need. But in our text today, Mary realized that Jesus was the one in need. He was getting closer and closer to Jerusalem, closer to meeting those in power, closer to conflict, closer to suffering, closer to death. He needed some nurturing, some comforting. Yet many of those who knew him best, who traveled with him, who slept with him, missed it. Didn't get it. Overlooked it. One of the challenges we have as a church, as a community of faith, as people who seek to make a difference out in the world, is not to overlook the needs of those who are right here with us. And as we grow, it gets more and more challenging as there are more people and more needs. I have had many mountaintop experiences during my many years here at Asbury, and fortunately, not too many regrets. However, one regret I have has to do with one or two of our elderberries. Elderberries are our older members who were here when I arrived in 1993. There were a couple of them who gave a Herculean effort in serving the members of this church for many, many years, caring for others, cooking for others, taking meal after meal after meal to people who were sick or grieving, constantly visiting people who were homebound. And years later, when it came their turn to be sick and homebound before they died, they did not receive the same kind of attention they had given to others. And I am so sorry for that. Did we have our minds too much on missions? Or on social justice issues? our theatrical productions? Or were we just understaffed and disorganized? Well, probably a little of all of the above. But we should have done better. As we grow, it doesn't get any easier. There are more and more people with needs, and as we grow, there are more and more programs and events and even ministries that can distract us from seeing the needs of those closest to us. Congregation, church council, council on ministries, let us keep today's text in mind as we move forward into the future. Help us be mindful of how we can be aware and present for those who are in need in our midst. But this text not only speaks to our relationship with our church family, it speaks to our relationships with our biological families and our close friends. What Judas wanted to do to his close friend Jesus and what Pastor Ingvis did to his wife Judy was give them the leftovers. And many of us do the same thing to our loved ones because we can. They're family. They'll love us anyway, and we take them for granted. As great a person as John Wesley was, the founder of Methodism, changed the world, we should not consider him a role model in the area of relationships. The way he treated the women he courted before he married, and the way he treated Molly, the woman he married, was not the way you should treat your loved ones. He was always away helping others, or working on a sermon, or some other ministerial service that would take his attention. Those closest to him were always getting the leftovers. He found it very difficult to give them the time and energy that he gave to his ministry and to those he considered who were in need. We learn so much from Wesley's wisdom. Let us also learn from his mistakes, his weaknesses. Good, caring people can put those closest to them on the back burner. For some reason, many of us have difficulty in giving the best to those we love, giving the best to persons with whom we have said in one way or another, you are important to me and I am important to you. Persons with whom we have relationship. Well, to help the disciples realize their struggle with this issue, Jesus reminds them that he will not always be with them. This event took place just before he entered Jerusalem. He's got a good idea of what's going to happen. Death is on his mind. He knows he will not be able to be with his friends much longer. And so he reminds them that relationships are not permanent. They should be appreciated and nurtured. We too need to see our loved ones as special gifts, rare treasures that are not permanent. Relationships should be nurtured and appreciated. Most of you are familiar with Thornton Wilder's classic play, Our Town, and how young Emily dies while giving birth to a child. As she joins the others who are deceased, we are able to hear them as they talk to one another in the graveyard. And we hear Emily ask the others if she can go back home. Can she have life there on earth one more day? Can she relive just one day? They don't encourage her to do so. They don't want her to go back because she'll be disappointed. She will be torn by the beauty of life, the wonder of life, and the people's lack of awareness of it. But finally, she is allowed to go to experience a childhood birthday. But that day there, she gets frustrated that people take each other for granted. And in her frustration, she cries out to her mother, "Mama, just look at me for 1 minute. Just look at me for 1 minute as though you really saw me." Take time. Take time to bathe your loved ones with expensive perfume. Give to them because they are special gifts, rare treasures that are not permanent. And so today, at least today, don't listen to John Wesley. Allow Mary to be your tutor. For we give thanks for Mary, for showing us how to treat those closest to us, for helping us to realize and to remember that our loved ones are gifts, rare treasures that are not permanent. We give thanks for Mary, for washing her friends' feet, who showed us how to love, who helped us realize that in order for us to love and reach out to those in need, we need to be loved, nurtured, refreshed, and cared for. So in fact, what Mary has done is so significant, Jesus copies her. He will soon be on his knees, washing his other friends' feet. We give thanks for Mary the grape, for being willing to be squished in order to do the right and loving thing. And we give thanks that squished grapes can be made into wine. Wine offered to you.